So it might be a small, at least live guest audience. So if you brought 2 gifts for the audience, we're it. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm really interested. I'm kind of excited to see the application that you all are working on, Grace. So it'll be cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, like a bit of a bummer that others can't join right now, but the way that I wanted to kind of go about my presentation, I think it'll be really good to have it be more discussion heavy between the 3 of us.
Yeah.
And yeah, and with full transparency, I actually left my position this week. So it'll be interesting to kind of go through from like a more of a learnings perspective too, because I still have so much love and respect for the Collado team and our product. And I think that it'll be really interesting to discuss what are some of the learnings we've had along the way as well. So
yeah, that sounds really cool. Yeah. Well, we'll make a reminder, by the way, that the call is being recorded. So if you have anything to say that you don't mind being public, then please feel free. Otherwise, you may not want to. We started to make. Oh, look at that! There's a dolphin.
Oh, I love that.
For trading. Oh man, that's perfect.
Yes.
I'm a dad, by the way, so dad jokes are complete with my realm. I appreciate it all.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess for like the future community calls, we can try for me like to make the presentation and you can like talk along the way and we'll see how that goes. Like that might be a cool way to experiment with that. But yeah, thanks Matt for mentioning that. So this is the schedule for today. So the collated demo, the discussion, and the small request from our community member that we can talk about. As I've mentioned off the record, we can share the recording and probably we will have something like to brainstorm about.
Yeah.
So yeah, meet Grace, the product manager at Collado.
Oh, this is so sweet. I was not expecting to see this slide.
Our dear committee member. So for those who don't know, we do have like a small committee to steer the community, to discuss the future of this community. Like we are talking about different stuff, and Grace is a really important member of that kind of sub community. So we are like really happy to have you on board.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for being a super active and energetic person. So like the input that you're giving to the community, that's like extremely valuable. We appreciate that very much. So yeah, yes, at this point, I'm giving you the stage. And
amazing, amazing. So I don't have a PowerPoint prepared for today, but I think I wanted to just give a bit of context. So as Max has mentioned, I was the product manager at Collado. I've been with the team since April 2022 up until this July. And so I've been with them a bit over a year. And it is a team of roughly 20 people based in Berlin. And when I first joined the team, we were at seed stage and we were a much different product. So before I talk about the product that we were and what we currently do, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the heart of Collado, what our purpose statement is. And that really is to make the future of work human-centric. And I think that's a really interesting topic when we also consider the intersection of AI, right? When we think about using AI into our workflow, what does it look like? Is it not as human-centric? Is it more about outputs rather than outcomes? And so I really wanted to start off this demo by maybe pointing the question back to you, Matt and Max. Maybe others can chime in too later on how do you imagine AI to influence the future of work?
The interesting thing is that this question is a bit relevant to what we will be discussing after your presentation. That's basically how AI can influence the hiring process. So that might be a bit like have some correlation with what we are talking right now. That's pretty cool coincidence. But yeah, the future is like what I don't believe in is that AI will substitute the people and like get rid of some of the jobs, because like I truly believe that AI will empower people to like get to the new heights, and even more jobs will be required to work with AI to fulfill different areas where AI will like that will be opened with the AI. So like I think the like the job market will explode after the AI will be widely adopted. That's my take on it.
I have a bit more of a different view. I think that AI is starting to replace and will replace a number of types of jobs, including software development, by the way. So I'm not saying it's going to push it completely out, but I think it will affect it, and affect it in a way that we all will have to just keep our heads up and see how that's going to happen. But I do think it's going to have an impact there. But I do see AI as an assistant. It is not a license to take the brains out of our heads and just blindly follow what it tells us. But as an assistant, I think it can help with things like brainstorming and considering different ideas that perhaps we hadn't considered before. It does not mean that we could just, again, follow blindly and take those steps and say, oh, great, I'm just going to go do those things. You have to take it with measure, as if anybody told you those ideas. And just because it's AI doesn't mean any different. You still should go and investigate, fact find, verify if it's what it's telling you is correct. So I think there's going to be a need for having sources and providing backup for anything that you're going to produce. We already struggle with hallucinations. I think that will be reduced in the future. But still, there's going to be a need for some kind of validation of what has been provided. But it will help. It will, and it already has. I've seen it myself, and especially in content creation. It certainly is providing some, at least starting points, if not the entire, solution for you. But that's my short take on it.
Love those responses. I'm sure that we could fill up even 3 hours together discussing on this topic. Something that we found to be really interesting during our many validation calls at Collado is that, people do have this recognition that to utilize AI will be beneficial. But there's also a little bit of a push and pull mechanism that's going on, because like we talked to a lot of product managers in workplaces, and I think PMs are quite optimistic on their impact to the world, focusing more on outcomes rather than outputs. But there could still be a bit of a paradigm, the traditional paradigm of, well, how do you measure impact in your contribution if it's not by like the speed of development and some of the regular practices that we've had. And I think in that regard too, there's a bit of barrier for PMs to even adopt AI practices because it doesn't integrate well to the overall team and company structure. And so that's it's been a little bit of an interesting topic for us, because with product management and Collado, we've been thinking a lot about how to make information accessible. And previously, the way to do that is by building up your knowledge base. You have these beautifully organized documentation on Confluence, on Notion, and you dedicate so much time to make sure it has the right template and structure for people to generally find what they think they're looking for. But that's no longer really working when you're working with dynamic information that might be changing day after day, week after week. And if you do document that type of information, then you don't always know if what you're seeing is still relevant. And so that's kind of the problem space that Collado has been drawn to, of how do we make collaboration more effective and make sure that all stakeholders are empowered with that knowledge. And we were actually quite lucky to catch on to the AI wave when this has happened, because we have decided to do a big pivot back in end of November 2022. And with the possibilities of like ChatGPT and like GPT-3, 3.5, 4, it opens up a new possibility, right? So it's not just about like, hey, like, can you use like meta properties, or can you reimagine knowledge bases and kind of have like one little niche, but rather reimagining the possibility of how do you distribute knowledge succinctly, and that people can still find it without feeling like they're interrupting with your time and flow. And so that's kind of the heart of Collado. I will go through the product now, and maybe just a bit of a caveat. Our team is working on a bit of a new facelift, a new interface for it. So what you will see will be what the current version is on production, but this will no longer be the case in the upcoming months. But I wanted to let you know the core, because that is what is driving our product decisions there.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and share my screen. I'll go to the landing page really quickly. So as Max has put in the slides, Collado, we are really the way for you to find any information. We take knowledge management to the next level by eliminating silos that your team may have, whether if information is placed in different tool stacks, or you use a very technical language. And really allowing people to get the insights that they need to no longer be blocked. And so what I have done here is I have created 2 workspaces. One is actually the onboarding demo content that you will get when you sign up. And the product, And so what we pre-prepare for you so that you can start testing this out is Collado is an AI assistant. What we have done is we added a public Google Docs here, a public Miro board, public Figma design, and then this is actually a Collado card, which we will be phasing out in the upcoming weeks. But the original idea behind this is that if you imagine that you populate this workspace with different artifacts from your different tools here, which you could auto sync from your Google Docs, your Jira, your Confluence, your Figma, Miro, PDFs, and Notion. Once the content is processed, then you're able to find anything based on semantic search. So what this means is that it scans through not just the title of your artifact for a keyword match, but really going through the body of the content to see if there is matching based on meaning. So for example, what we have here is a PRD on media player. This is a fictitious feature. Let's imagine that we are a visual content collaboration platform and we introduced a new video player. So this talks about what are the different components within the media player, the technical requirements. It links to the design. But let's imagine that this is placed somewhere and I just really need to remember what are the different file types that are supported by the media player. So I will ask what video file types are supported by the media. And this might take a moment. So happy to answer any questions in the meantime.
No, it's interesting.
For the technology.
So I noticed that you said that you could import other items through the right-hand side, that toolbar on the right. Is it, excuse me, do you have to bring things into the workspace here for it to be searchable? So it's not automatically searching through whatever may be linked with those accounts, like with Google Drive. You have to go and point it to and say, this document and this document and this document, these are all related to what I'm going to be asking about. Is that is that the idea?
So yes, let me clarify that. So what you will need to do when you set up Collado is that you will need to authorize access to your various tools. And then you could decide from there if you want to sync at the account level, meaning all the content within that account will be synced, or you could select on maybe I don't want my entire Google Drive to be synced, but I have a few documents or a few folders, and that could be done.
Got it. So this workspace here, I know that you're waiting for it to come back, but when it says at the bottom, our workspace, is that you're considering that this is like all for a particular project? Like maybe you're working on the PRD, or I'm sorry, this media player project. So
that was the original consideration, but what we are moving towards now is actually having one workspace altogether. So there's no way of dividing it by topic. And the reason for this is simply because we will be reliant on the search technology to be able to discern like what information you're looking for. And so I think later on we'll have to tackle a way to parse like what knowledge is distributed to whom, right? Because let's say that I set up this workspace for my colleagues, but we also want to connect some of the information out to our external audience. You don't want to have,
of course,
internal information to be exposed, but still that like when it comes to product information, the way that you might want to troubleshoot some issues, that's something for your internal team to know and your external team to know. And so before our approach was having different workspaces, and now we are working towards something else.
Okay, I see.
So this particular UI, so I believe while you're throwing different items there, the connections between those items will be built by the Calato itself, or do you need to manually link those items to like indicate that they are connected in some way? Because I see the lines between the like the squares on this workspace.
That's a great question. So this is something that we are putting less emphasis on later on, but right now for the implementation is that if you have a link hyperlinked in your document, so let's say in your Google Docs you have your Jira ticket link, your Figma design, then our technology is able to detect that and suggest a connection if you want to import those connections onto the map later on, and it will draw those lines accordingly.
Wow, that's super cool. And my next question, I guess, is this UI a custom UI, or you're using like Miro API, for example, because like it looks a bit like a Miro board with those squares and connections between them. So
we have a really talented engineering team and also a very talented product designer who has designed this to make it look so beautiful and simple. But I will say that with our internal usage of this tool, we have also seen that, when you do fill up the workspace with a lot of artifacts, it doesn't look as clean and simple. And so
I imagine so.
So the decision that we're actually making is moving away from this map-centric interface into something that is more focused on the assistant capabilities, because as you can imagine, this is still what is really valuable in terms of surfacing information.
Yeah.
So can you spoil a bit how the new UI would look like, or it's an NDA for now?
So like I mentioned, I had my last day at Calato earlier this week, so I don't have access to all of the designs, but I will say stay tuned. It is being built out as we speak, and I know that they will be launching the new interface at the start of September.
Okay, cool. Sorry for that question, and looking forward to it, I guess.
I'm curious to hear, what are you hoping to see for the new interface?
Yeah, honestly, I'm curious whether you will move towards like a Windows search engine, something like just a list with the items and that's it. So like I'm curious whether this assumption will be correct in the later version of this UI. So like move away from the like word cloud and more towards the simplified and condensed table like UI, so something like this. Like this is my first guess, like I might be wrong, but
interesting.
We'll
yes see. So as a PM, of course, I want to ask just to
of course
have those assumptions.
That's smart. No, it's really interesting.
If it's okay
So I
with
see there's a,
everyone.
oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Please go ahead.
There is one more part I do want to like quickly run through before we
Yeah,
go
please,
into a deeper
please.
discussion. So over here, so you saw that I tried a few times to get the video file types, didn't have much luck. But the question I asked is how to get started in Collado, and the reason why this answer is pulled up is because this document has all the Collado FAQs for people to scan through.
There you go.
And so that's why I came up with the information. I'll actually go back and show you a different workspace I prepared. And this is a workspace with some PDF articles that that I put together. And this is more about LLMs. Some of the content has been shared by our community members. So huge shout out to Vince Kanger and Anthony Davidson for the articles that they have shared.
I'm sorry,
I have...
Vince is from Germany, correct? Like he's working in WASP. Oh, sorry, you mean AI Product Hive community, right? Or Collado community?
Yes.
Yeah,
AI Product Hive.
I'm so sorry, because sorry for interrupting. I've been thinking that you met Vince somewhere else in your community, like Collado community, and I'm like, oh my God, this is such a small world because he's also in the Product Hive community, and I'm like, I've been shocked for a moment. Sorry for interrupting.
No, all good. Well, hopefully I do meet Vince in our community. But here I prepared a workspace about this type of content. So it's no longer Collado sample content. And what I have done is I actually connected it to to one of my private Slack groups. So it's connected. And what I have done is it's actually here. And so you can see that previously I asked, what is model collapse? And this is actually pulling the information from the workspace now onto Slack. So you can see the source. And you'll be referred to it, but this is also a way for team members to get answers directly from Slack, assuming that's your main communication channel. I know for us, we had a whole channel dedicated towards product Ask Anything. So a way for people to try to get answers so that they aren't either interrupting someone else or they're getting an answer in the meantime that someone else is quite busy and hasn't gone back to them right away.
Very nice. Very nice. So it's pulling from, I think you had what, 4 PDFs there. So it's when it's responding, it's giving the answer from any one of those. And it could be multiple, right? It could be a question that has answers across the PDFs, of course.
Let's see if this will pull the answer. So basically, you might have seen me do the / command. So it's /Collado. And I am asking the question. This is a verification from our bot, saying that it is looking for the answer. It does take a bit of time. And the reason for this is that it is scanning for the information to see if it's there. And also it formulates the whole text. Unlike ChatGPT, where you see that there's like characters that show up as time goes on, this is waiting for all of that to be generated and then shown.
Sure. And you can do this in any channel. So any channel you're working in.
Exactly, yes, because for right now, this is the / command, which works whether like in a direct message or other channels, and I could send it for others to see. Maybe I don't want others to know how many questions I'm asking, and I could just choose to dismiss this. Yeah.
What kind of, let me ask, I noticed before that you had Figma files connected. And that was interesting. I know that was in the other workspace. What is it sourcing images, or is it sourcing like text from there? Like what it's kind of interesting idea to pull from Figma.
Yeah, so with Figma, it's actually pulling the design screen with the URL.
Oh, okay.
And so the initial idea behind this that we are slightly pivoting away from is what if there's a place for a product manager to keep track of all of the feature artifacts? So you might have your PRD, but then there are like different design links, different JIRA links. So you are able to cluster them together. And so when you're looking for something that is, let's say you want to find your user onboarding flow, you see that cluster and everything related to it, so that you're no longer like digging through your Figma to see where's the right screen, you have the link right there. And yeah, so this is actually pulled from the Figma's API.
It is, yeah, from the API there.
And
but
same
is
thing
it
with
when you're using the language model though, is it searching through text, or is it doing some kind of image recognition as well?
No, so not image recognition, but it's searching by context.
Okay, I see. Okay, so like going through the comments, for example, on a particular screen, maybe using that.
I can't disclose too much, so.
Oh,
That's
no,
all
I'm
I'll
sorry. I
say.
don't mean to, I'm not trying to get in. I'm just trying to figure out like what information is it pulling out to know that that is that, but that's okay. I don't want to put you in a weird position. So
No, all good, all good.
okay.
But I think this has been like such a fun challenge for me as a product manager working on an AI tool, because when you think about search results, at initial glance, you think it's very easy, and then you start to realize, oh yeah, like if someone is trying to look for, let's say, their OKR information and it's hosted on their Miro board or even like Google Sheets, how do we smartly configure that information based on maybe the different cells or the positioning of that information? So there's a lot of fun challenges and problem solving, but yeah, that's been very fun for me.
So can I ask then, because I haven't used this tool, but how, I mean, you're the product manager, and I imagine you speak with customers too. Like how are they using it? Like what is the primary benefit for them? Is it okay to ask that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so we've talked to our customers like bi-weekly. We've done so many validation talks that at some point, I think, we hear everything under the sun.
Yeah.
The biggest concern for them is, do they have to keep up the manual effort? And that's the reason why we have made the decision that instead of creating like new cards that are Collado cards, they would have to auto sync with the existing information. And so with that, what we have learned is, our initial assumption was that they would care about the clustering of information, and it wasn't so much about that. It's more about, okay, my information is there, now help me find that information that I know that's there, so that one, maybe I don't have to rewrite that information, or other people can find it on their own. So the way that I have practiced using Collado is, let's say that there are a lot of questions on what are the current capabilities and limitations. And I know I have that written in Jira because I've written things for QA testing. It's scattered everywhere, but I don't exactly remember where it is. I could take, the 15-20 minutes to write it up, or I could get the initial help from this assistant to be able to pull, hey, like, what is this and what are the current limitations?
Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you, it really feels like this is like if you're removing everything from the screen except for that search bar, it feels like Spotlight for product managers. Spotlight on
I've heard that before. Yes.
I imagine I'm not the only one. It's not too clever, but it certainly, it feels like I'm just looking for this. Just tell me where this is, right? Within the scope of what I care about, like for a given project or whatever I'm working on, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah, the cool thing is that the Slack integration, because like I'm thinking about this for the last couple of minutes, I guess the majority of my conversations with some of my colleagues are like when I'm asking a question and I'm getting the link to the documentation that like I would never ever think that that documentation exists in the first place, and or I've been trying to find it and never managed to do so, and I went directly to the person who made the doc and asking like, hey, can you please point me the exact link because I can't find it, or something like this. So like if I would be able to even chat in a group, like even if I would try to ask in a group chat about whether there is a doc somewhere and the bot would automatically send me the link, saving the time for other team members and not distracting them from their work, I guess that is instant money saver for the company. And even if I would be like, I guess, stubborn enough to keep asking people questions instead of asking the bot, even in that case, the bot can save the time and money for the company. But I guess in a couple times when I will receive the answer from the bot, I will go and ask the bot in the first place, and it will help me with the search. So yeah, I think this is extremely valuable because I'm like spending like sometimes a ton of time to find the correct documentation for some functionality that's been poorly documented, for example, or so yeah, that's simply amazing, honestly. The power of that Slack integration is limitless, I think. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see how much information is exchanged on Slack, right? Because things just move so fast in these workplaces these days. And what I personally find, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. Please, sorry, go ahead.
What I find to be really fascinating too is the possibility of maybe even closing that feedback loop, because oftentimes I feel like I should write documentation, but I don't really know what the impact of that documentation is, or if I don't know what others don't know that I think they should know, right? So to be able to close that feedback loop of like, okay, these are like the common questions with failed search results, I think that is more of an indication for them, like with knowledge management, to build that up, or to at least see like where the disconnects are between the different teams or individuals.
Sure.
Yeah,
and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the cool thing is that people are always like at least trying to ignore making a documentation for some functionality simply because no one will read that. But in this case, if you 100% know that when someone will need something, they can go and ask the bot, and bot 100% gives them this link to this documentation and with this particular information. That might even encourage people to like make the documentation and like without like having this headache about where to store it, how to properly maintain it, and so on. So yeah, that might be also a valuable part of that as well.
Yeah, you could have like so many different documentation about the same subject, but there are different dimensions of that subject that this is able to find for you.
That's right. At that point, the organization of it that you've done almost doesn't matter, right? Because you're going into the vector store and you're finding the information that you need, and you pull it out in a coherent answer and you provide links. So, you could put the information anywhere as long as it's attached to the tool here. Let me ask, I know that this is geared towards product teams and product managers you've spoken about. Have there been like I noticed that you can attach certain types of items. Have there been any requests to attach repos to it? Like actually the software repos to this as well?
So I think our team has been talking primarily to like founders, CEOs, PMs. So we've been looking more from like the leadership direction. But of course I can imagine like more for empowering the development team, that is also an opportunity. The reason why we position this as the AI tool for product teams is so that we actually have a bit of a niche and some focus on what our initial integrations are before we start expanding our integration list.
Okay. All right, very nice.
Yeah, the integration list is also something really valuable. We've been discussing that a couple of times. So yeah, good luck with that, I guess.
Thank you.
Well, this is cool. Very cool. Thank you for presenting this, by the way. This is great.
My pleasure. Thank you for giving me the space. And maybe to wrap things up, like one offer I wanted to make too is that we could even leverage the Slack bot of Collado to start building up like an internal knowledge base for our AI product Hive group. And so that's the reason why I came up with this as an example of even pulling out different PDF articles, so that if people might have questions on, hey, like, what's a recommended tool for X usage, if we happen to have that type of content here, then they are able to find it on their own.
That's a clever idea. Well, let me ask then, does Collado not only provide, is it sourcing the text from Slack to use as part of the answers? So that if it was like, say, written in some other channel, the question that you're asking, would it know that? Or is it pulling directly just from these types of items here?
Right now it's from the workspace to Slack. So it's a
Okay.
one-way
One
knowledge
way. All right.
transfer. Yeah.
Okay. Because I could see that being really interesting too. Of course, you have to manage the fact that what channels you have access to and which ones you don't, right? So
Mhm.
they couldn't provide you an answer for something that was in a private channel that you're not a member of. So it gets to be pretty complex that way. But I think it's interesting. Well, very cool. Yeah, I don't have a problem connecting this up to AI Product Hive Slack. I think that would be great.
Yeah, agree on that. Like we are discussing that from time to time. That would be pretty cool to have it like our community indexed on Google. That would be like a killer feature. I don't think Collado will allow us to do that, but if we will have like recurring conversations about the same topics, this definitely would be something that we would like to use at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
That'd be great to
that
test it out. Give it a try.
yeah, should be cool. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Hey, Evan. Nice to see you.
Hi. Yeah.
Hey.
Hi.
Welcome back.
I love the graph view. It reminds me of graph view on the Obsidian. And these graph views, they're usually not very useful. And I don't think that somebody will pay for like graph view, but I don't know, emotionally, I just love them. It's like sometimes it's just,
yeah,
it's so interesting. Like in Obsidian, I made this. I was making like notes in the Apple Notes since like I don't know 2016 or something like this, and I have around like 5,000 notes. There are like different conspects of courses that I passed, meeting notes, and I don't know, psychotherapy notes. And when I moved all this stuff to Obsidian, and like I tagged this like psychology is like a green hashtag. Another stuff is like a yellow hashtag. It's just so I don't know, emotional, pleasing to see like all that all the knowledge that you have, like the virtual map of your knowledge, like organized like a graph. It's a nice thing. I see that you have like a pretty huge community on Twitter. I wonder if you have like some kind of SMM person who is doing it or what? Or are you
sorry, are you talking to me?
Or yeah. Hi, Grace.
Yeah, we hi. Yeah, we have a phenomenal team. Shout out to Maria. I actually invited her to our AI Product Hive. So she's there. She's been our awesome social media manager, getting our presence known on the interwebs.
How big is your team? I'm sorry if like you already told it, but I missed it.
We're around 20 people.
20 people. Oh my God. Are you profitable? Because
no, we're pre-revenue.
Oh, because like I see $6 a month, it's pretty cheap, especially if you target like managers. Because yeah, I like the tool, and I also like this. I also agree to comment of Max about Slack, because yeah, it's like when you want to find something to have like another tab or another app to like in addition to like your Jira, Slack, Google Docs, Confluence, Notion, I don't know, Miro, Figma, blah blah blah. It's like pretty painful, and I love the idea like to integrate to the stuff like that people are using daily. It's very good.
It's a good idea.
But I will not use it because I have no such pain, because I know my docs are usually like pretty well organized. But I think that's because I don't manage like a large team and like a big amount of projects. Like I think if you have like 10 projects and like 10 project managers beneath you who are doing them, and you need like to have all this information. Yeah, I think like for C-level people, it could be really valuable. And I think for C-level people, it makes sense to make it much higher priced, because yeah, you know, like not $6, but like $60 a month, I don't know. Or if you like, probably for B2B, you have like another pricing, like, I don't know, thousands dollars a year or something like this. I don't know. Well,
Evan,
yeah,
thank you so much for your enthusiasm. I'll let our team know. I'm sure the CEO will be especially happy to hear that we could bump up the
Yeah.
price.
yeah, it's you
Yeah.
know, it's very easy to say that when you're not planning to pay that yourself.
Well, I'll tell you this though. I mean, in my experience, and look, the work that we do at Planorama, you know, as from design services, a lot of the value that we provide is giving a level of organization that companies typically don't invest in. Like, and if you're a single entrepreneur, probably you can manage it all yourself, you know, but I don't think that's their target either. When you have teams that are larger and things that are spread out in all these, you know, areas, and the information is growing faster than you can remember exactly where it was, then this becomes a lot more interesting, because you can be organized without being organized, right? And I think that's what they're after, right? It doesn't matter where it is, doesn't matter who wrote it, and you know, as long as you have access to it, you can find the information and get a coherent answer back from the language model, and tell you where it got the information from, which is very valuable.
Yeah, that's cool. So even since you're building a product that is focused on the product managers, I guess you can feel the pain of like like when people are building big projects and trying to find a place or find a tool that will help them to achieve their goals. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that if the company has like this enormous documentation with a bunch of different tools and it's stored across different platforms, that might be like a big issue for them. So yeah, that should be.
Very cool. Well, thank you,
Yes.
Grace, by the way. Thank you for presenting.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So I've started sharing my screen to have this seamless transaction between the Grace presentation and the coffee talk, and I've like stopped that, and right now I'm back to it. So like we'll have like a small hiccup there, but yeah.
No
Anyway,
worries.
so yeah, this is actually the topic that I wanted to present for this coffee talk. This is the like the message that I've received from one of our community members. So for the context, he's a product manager with like experienced product manager, and like the issue is that he's like learning best practices for prompt engineering to start, and like he's looking into career change. So he's exploring options how AI can help with the resume interviews and recruitment process in general. So this is something that I mentioned at the beginning of our call. Like this topic is a bit connected to the Grace's question at the beginning. So how AI can transform like the jobs and the job market, but like right now it seems like it can transform the hiring process in the first place, because I've mentioned previously, and we've been talking about Vince some time ago. Like he built cover letter GPT. That's the website that helps you to generate cover letters, and it's really popular. Despite he's doing absolutely zero marketing, no marketing at all, he's like getting new customers every day, and that's basically a simple tool that can consume your CV in a PDF format, parse it, and when you're applying to the position, you can see the job description, it helps you to produce a near perfect cover letter, because the GPT, like the chat GPT, consumed your CV information, it consumed the job vacation, and it can match the relative, like the thing that can be relative to what is described in the job description. So this is like a really cool and popular tool right now. So happy to have Vincent on the community, and this is the one way that I see how the job market will be transformed and how like the interview process can be made much easier. Because for me personally, if I would search for a job using a tool like this, and if it can even automate writing cover letters, that would be a huge time saver for me, because I think like 90% of the the job search process is like put this perfect cover letter, and like 10% is to search for actual jobs. So yeah.
Well,
like,
look, let me jump in and say that
yes.
The process has already been automated for a long time on the recruiting front, right? They have applicant tracking systems, ATSs, that are like a CRM for tracking all of this. They have analyzers that look at resumes and try to find keywords, try to find the best match. So you can say that that level of automation has already occurred. And look, in the job search, we're dealing with JPEG representations of ourselves. Like it's a terribly inefficient model, but it's what we do, right? We take a resume, which is a JPEG version of ourselves. We try to condense it down and make it the most relevant in certain areas. Okay, and they take the job posting and they try to condense it down to something that represents what the role is, and then you're just trying to find a match. What it turns out is that though the employers have been using this technology already, so they're not really reading your resume initially. Unless they're a small employer and they're doing that, but usually large employers, they have automated processes for extracting and figuring out, hey, rank me the 10 best candidates for this.
Actually, I think there are not so many huge companies. Actually, I think the most of the job market is like mid-sized companies or small companies or agencies, and they are not actually using these enterprise level ATS, and they usually like doing well using like I don't know, like Notion for applicants tracking, or I don't know, so that kind of stuff. So
well,
I don't
think
think
to
that
do. I think there's a lot to do. I worked in this space for a little while. I have some background, and I know that there's a large number of companies that use these applicant tracking and scanners when they have a large number of candidates that they're bringing on all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that the smaller companies aren't going to go one by one because they can't afford, they're not going to get the ROI on it.
It's really interesting, like to see, this market distribution. How many there are actually like a huge companies who have like hundreds or thousands of applicants. Because I experienced this thing. I don't know, a couple of months ago. I had a talk with my friend that, I was working in IT for like 10 years or something like this. And I'm in this kind of bubble that I'm using like the job boards for IT professions and or for like product for digital professions. I don't know. And when you're like stepping out of it, and there are lots of like lower salary jobs. I don't know, in Horeca, in construction, in some kind of offline service businesses, like and so on and so on. And it's actually really interesting to see, how many there are actually like large companies who are using these all these ATFs, and how many there are actually like jobs from like smaller or mid-sized companies who are not using this at all. It's
well,
really
my point wasn't about the ATSs, except for the fact that many times when you do submit it, if you are being read by some kind of intermediary, tool,
yeah,
you as a person have had to go and write your resume in a certain way for it to be, have better chances. It's almost like putting SEO into your resume, right? You have to manually do this. But if you can use
every
tools
job
like this.
Yeah, every career consultant says like you have to like waste some time, and you have to like how to say this, customize your resume for each
Yeah.
job response that you are doing. And actually,
That's
yeah, right
right.
now you can automate it pretty easily. Yeah, like how you have this like cover letter tool. I think there should be like custom resume tool when you have like link to the job post, when you have like a document, a large document with all of your experiences. You know, not only like your resume, but you know, all the things that you actually do, that maybe some of them you will like not even considering putting into your resume. But you know, when you're dealing with some kind of job posts and jobs, you know, AI might see that actually, hey, this thing that you done, I don't know, when you are working, I don't know, as a team, I don't team manager in this hotel when you was like I don't know, when you were in university, might actually be a good point for this job that you are applying to this company in. I don't
It
know,
might
in
be.
marketing.
Yeah, you're right. And probably the tool that Max was talking about might be able to identify that and say, oh, you know, we should highlight this particular experience in the cover letter, you know, for example.
Yeah.
You know, that's quite possible. Grace, please jump in.
Thank you. Maybe just kind of looking at the main question here on what the options are. I think we talked a lot about like maybe crafting that cover letter, that resume to make sure that you don't spend as much time and you could get your foot in the door. I think the thing I really love about AI too is that I think it really makes like the uncertainty of the recruitment process like more clear, especially for people who haven't had that type of accessibility before. So for example, I went to business school. I had a whole class dedicated towards crafting your resume and cover letter and what to expect in terms of recruitment etiquette. And there could be people who just never had that type of opportunity. So to be able to kind of get that knowledge from AI, to get the like consulting from the AI in terms of how to better their resume, how to craft their story, practice interviewing, I think that's a huge thing. But also like there's like so many little things about the recruitment etiquette, like sending that thank you letter that has like such a weird like biased emotional influence on the final say. Like I think there could be some cool things that AI surfaces for people when you just don't know that's the thing to do.
Yeah. Well, it also will help you just, you know, look, the thank you letter, sometimes it can be a pain in the butt to write, you know, to sit down and just go write it. And if I could just say, you know, can you just thank them for the interview? You know, go ChatGPT and, you know, write it and give them the information. It saves, you know, the mental draw that that otherwise could be spent on looking at new opportunities and things, right? Like it's just one more thing. And when I had worked I used to run a company and another community that was focused quite a bit on helping people network and navigate their job, their career, and including the job search. I learned a lot about the process, but I also learned that job seekers, if they're active job seekers, you know, they sometimes are, it's in a very emotional, very emotionally tied activity. And there's a lot of things that can happen, including, you know, depression, and, you know, when things aren't happening over time, it can lead to some real challenges, and it ends up making, unfortunately, it turns into this spiral where folks are sometimes not spending as much time as they should on the job search. So anything we can do to relieve of some of these basic activities, like, hey, just write a cover letter for me, here's a job description, here's, you know, this, go. That's I think really valuable, and you can use rather easily with some prompting. Use GPT-4 to do that for you, and most likely help quite a bit. Also, I've used it for tightening up paragraphs. Like, I tend to be wordy sometimes, and I'll take a whole paragraph and just say, can you just make this more concise with saying, and say the same information? And it does. And it usually gets it done. Like it trims off about 25% of what I said, and it sounds just as good. And so that, you know, if you're just trying to get your resume on one page, that can help too, right? Just tighten up what I'm saying.
Yeah, almost everything that's that is about like writing texts, writing any like text content, is can be automated with ChatGPT right now. And in recruitment process, it's like a very big part of work. Just communication or written communication. Actually, I think I'm a strong believer that the whole recruitment process today sucks. It just sucks.
Yeah.
It's such a shit show. I like this. I've heard this
Don't hold
quote.
back. Tell us how you really feel.
I heard this quote from BuildSpace founder. I don't know if you heard about BuildSpace.
Sorry
No.
for interrupting you. We are recording right now, so yeah, that might be something that we would like to cut out of the video. But yeah, please proceed.
So BuildSpace, it's they are kind of accelerator, like practice-oriented program, where they like apply inviting, or not inviting, where they're allowing to apply like lots of people, like they have like 10,000 of students right now, and they have like a 6-week program. And you have to have like some kind of idea, and every week you have to work on this idea, and they will like help you to well they will give some lections, some inspiration, blah blah blah. And every week you need to show some progress, show some increment. And people who will in the end will like create some, it could be anything. It could be a software program, it could be music album, it could be a YouTube video, documentary, or some kind of that. So basically like any some kind of like creation, I don't know, some kind of like project idea that you are dreamed of building for a long time. And basically they inviting everyone. They have like no interviews, no like almost no filtration at all. But the filtration process itself is like this practice. Like every week you have to show some progress, show some increment, and if you like didn't do anything, you will just drop out. And I very like strong believer in this approach, this idea. Maybe because going well, I'm pretty good at in like interviewing and like in writing resume. I'm okay with it, but I think like it's not a right way to do it. I don't know, because it's actually a different skill set. To get a job, to I don't know, to be successful during the interview and to show yourself. It's basically like acting. And first 3 or 5 interviews, you can screw up, you can like be bad, but then you like learn your weak spots. Then you like with 1 hour of Googling, you learn all the stuff that you missed, and you can next time you can show yourself better. And like every time in my life that I had to like get a job, it was all the same. Like first couple of interviews.
Yeah, I know. You have to do it. You end up doing the dance. You got to do the dance.
First couple of interviews you are screwing up, but then like all your weak spots, you learning some stuff, you already know how to present your past experience better, and easy like 70% success rate and like a bunch of offers. And I think like this practice approach, I don't know how to do it, but I think like the first company who will figure it out, it should be like a huge shift, I believe. Not to do all these like screening, testing, interviewing process, but actually let people to work with you for some time, and to understand how they actually work, not how they're saying about how they work, but how they're actually working.
Well, that's something we're not going to fix. We're not going to fix it right now. I know what you mean. And there's places that have done that, by the way. But this person, unfortunately, is living in the present, and they have to navigate. And I think there are some things that we told them. I think we gave some ideas about how to use prompting, especially for, adjusting their resume and helping to produce cover letters and things. It's inefficient. I agree, Evan. It's the whole process is inefficient. We're not going to solve it in the next couple of minutes, but I think the actually, AI
with this whole
AI
like,
can help.
with this whole like office work, I don't know, wave from like 80s till nowadays, we created like these amazing tools, like these digital documents and this office work, but and it allows us to create like much more interesting stuff. But also we created some kind of, I don't know, like a huge pile of mundane, boring, inefficient, this kind of work, where you have to like just write documents, documents. I think Sam Altman has this quote, you know, like when you asking ChatGPT to write a nice email of your 3 bullet points, and then the person who receives this email asking ChatGPT to how to say this, like to take off these 3 bullet points of your generated text on the other side.
Yeah. Well, look, we have to get going. We're at time for the call, and I got to be respectful of other works. No, it's okay. It's an interesting problem, and it's a tough nut to crack, and that's worthy of a whole other call on a whole different topic. Because you and I think probably could have a really interesting discussion about it, and I tend to agree. That's why I was saying in the beginning, like it's all JPEGs. You know, we're all just sharing pixelated versions of ourselves and hoping it'll work, but well, you know,
it's
that's a problem.
It's the same as democracy, you know, like democracy is just is so bad,
inefficient,
but humanity is not invented anything better for now.
That's a good closing thought. That's a good closing thought.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad we are like finishing on that idea. So that's like a really cool thing to have to close our call. So yeah, to wrap things up, we can use a tool to help you generate your CV. There's no particular way to help with the interviews right now, but as Grace and Ivan mentioned, would be a cool thing to ask ChatGPT to help with the behavior tips during the interview, and that would be pretty much it. So
Actually, for the interview process, I've seen the prompt where you're asking ChatGPT to perform the role of interviewer, and you're saying to it like, I'm applying for this job, act as an interviewer, and it will ask you questions one at a time, and you have to answer them. So I think like some interview coaching is also pretty AI automatable.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, thank you for the tips. Grace, thanks for the idea. You see, like we brainstormed a bunch of cool stuff here. So yeah, thank you very much for joining the call, Grace, for the amazing presentation. Good luck with your future challenges. We hope to see you like in the community with your next project that you would be working on. Ivan, thank you very much for all the input. It's been extremely valuable for us. Matt, thank you for joining the call as always, and sharing the stage.
You'll have a great rest of your Friday.
Yeah, thank you all. Been a pleasure to see you. Goodbye.
Yeah, nice to see you all. Have a nice weekend.
You as well. Take care,
Bye.
everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.